Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to Federal Resources Crowdcast of Rigaku. If you're not familiar with Federal Resources, we're a prime on the TLSP Rapid Execution Contract, and through our valuable partners like Rigaku, we offer the best products, world-class training, and services. So we are a full solution provider. Today, we'll be hearing from Rigaku. Not only will they be presenting their technology, but also use cases. If you have any questions during the presentation, please use the Ask a Question button at the bottom of your screen. And at the end of the presentation, I'll be reading them aloud, and Nancy will answer them to the best of her ability. If she can't, we'll make sure to follow up with you afterwards. So without further ado, here is Nancy Otto with Rigaku.
Hello, thank you for attending our webinar today. My name is Nancy Otto. I am the Sales Director for Rigaku. The presentation today is going to consist of a PowerPoint presentation followed by a short video of the product in being used, and then followed that by two speakers that we have today to talk about their experiences in the real world. So let me put you on the PowerPoint presentation. Hopefully this will work well. How is that, Libby? Are you seeing it?
Not yet. Click entire screen and then you go to PowerPoint.
I did the screen and the share. How are we doing?
Nothing yet.
Is it not working?
I don't see it yet.
Okay, let me go back. Okay. All right, let's try this again. Sorry about that.
There you go.
Okay, how are we doing?
Good job.
Better? Okay. All right, so just a little bit about our company. Who is Rigaku? Rigaku proper is in Japan, and they were founded in 1951, and they are at the forefront of the analytical and industrial instrumentation technology. They have a lot of different product that they offer, XRF, XRD, that is their specialty, and they're very well known for their attention to detail, for the quality of their instruments, and they are headquartered in Tokyo, Japan. Rigaku Analytical Devices, however, is the US entity of Rigaku, and we are located in Wilmington, Massachusetts, and we were founded in 2011 in response to the growing need for handheld analyzers. We actually have two product lines. We have our Raman product line. We also have a LIBS product line that we offer as well. And so if anybody is interested in metal analysis, please contact us about that as well. But our reputation is built on best-in-class products. We pioneered 1064 nanometer Raman technology, and that was starting 6 years ago in 2015. Since then, we have had a lot of awards that have been given to us for product design. 5 of those that you can see right here over the years. The latest is in 2020 for new product of the year. But we take a lot of pride in our products, and we've spent a lot of time building that reputation for best-in-class products, as well as in our customer support service that we offer as well. But just going back over an overview of what is Raman technology. It is for chemical identifications of solids, liquids, powders, paste, and gels. And it's ideal for unknown environments. It creates a fingerprint signature of a chemical. And that is something that is compared to a library on board. The fact that it has such a large library to compare to makes it ideal, as I said, in unknown environments for analysis of things that you would experience or come across in the environment. But most of all, what Raman is known for is it keeps the operator safe from harm. And why is this? Is because it has a laser technology that shoots a laser through the container wall itself and analyzes a sample without first having to remove the sample. In that removal process, you could expose yourself to a potential hazard. So that's why it's so important to keep the operator safe from harm during the sampling process itself. In our case, the technology is able to see through translucent packaging, and that is doesn't matter what the color is of the translucent packaging. Our handheld Raman have a difference from what is currently on the market today. It is very often found that Raman technology is using 785 nanometer laser technology. We use the latest generation of technology called 1064 nanometer laser technology. The main difference is that our technology is virtually unaffected by fluorescence interference and that you may have seen affect the Raman units of the past. What that does for the customer is fast analysis time. Every analysis is less than 45 seconds. And this is because we don't have the interference of fluorescence that slows down the sampling process with 785 units. Our unit design satisfies both the novice user as well as the full scientist. I think our unit is the only product on the market today that actually can be used in manual mode by a full scientist if they have spectroscopic background as well. But other than that, for the novice user, we have a default program, and that basically does all of the decision-making itself for the user. So all they have to do is position the sample, tap the screen 3 times, and get the results. But there also is, in addition to the touch screen operation, there is button control operation. So if you were finding yourself having to use PPE or heavy gloves, you would be able to operate the unit as well. So it's a complete duplication between the touch screen and the button control. Cell phone-like software makes it very intuitive to operate the unit, and it is something that most people can pick up and start to use automatically. This also cuts down on the training burden as well, because everyone is so used to operating their cell phone. Our results are color-coded. This is for the interpretation of users who have not had any chemical background, that is not even familiar with any of the chemical names. The results being color-coded instantly gives them an idea of whether the chemical that they've analyzed is a threat to them or no threat, or is in a caution category as well. There is an onboard camera on all of our units. The camera is meant to add photographic evidence to the analysis. Any number of pictures can be taken of the scene, of the sample, anything that will add information to the file and be able to describe more about the sample than just providing the analytical results. The pictures are embedded into the file and they cannot be removed from the file, and they follow that all the way through to the results, transferring the results. Tamper-proof files, very important, so that if it did go to court, that the court would know that nothing had been changed or modified once it had been taken by the unit. And of course, we have Wi-Fi and cable data transfer available on the units. Wi-Fi, by transferring the information by Wi-Fi, it's in almost near time analysis mode. We do have special features that we offer on the unit. So it's not just point and shoot and get the answer. One is our advanced 4C technology software. This software monitors in the background while you're using the unit at a scene. And if it sees that you've analyzed two or more of the precursors to a bigger threat, it will send a warning on screen immediately, letting you know that this is the situation. This relieves the user from having to think about what the combinations of chemicals could represent to them. So it's an early warning system, and it's meant to give you the information of not only what the threat could be based on the precursors that it's analyzed, but it also is telling you the identification of each of the precursors separately as well. Rigaku has 3 products in their Raman product line. Our original product is the Progeny Rescue, and that was launched in 2015. The Progeny, or the Rescue sequel, and the Progeny Flex both came about in early 2019. The Rescue sequel is the follow-on to the Rescue, and then the Flex is for narcotics only. So just a little bit about our Rescue, our original product. As I said, it was launched in 2015. And again, the first 1064 nanometer laser technology that was on the market at that time. We have been evaluated and improved by the U.S. Army DERSCO program, and that was in late December of 2018. The units that we produce are ruggedized, 810G certified. They're deconable. They've been tested with all the decon solutions, and they are sealed from the environment so that you can even dunk them in a bucket of water for decon, should you wish. The rechargeable batteries last anywhere from 6 to 7 hours of battery life, depending on the unit. For the Rescue product, it is 7 hours of intermittent use. And we have the integrated 5 megapixel camera on our products as well. We have a series of 4 sampling adapters for hands-free sampling as well that are easily attached to the end of the unit for different applications. The Rescue sequel is pronounced sequel. It is spelled CQL. A lot of customers still call it the CQL. It's smaller and lighter in weight than the Progeny Rescue, and it is currently in the DERSCO evaluation program as well. The same ruggedized to 810G is certified and deconable, and the software and functionality is the same as our original product, the Rescue. But it does have some special features on it as well. We have the hot swappable battery capability on the sequel, and it comes with the battery cradle for the CR123 batteries. And we also have a flash that we added to the camera so that it's the pictures that it takes are allowed in low light conditions as well. But the most important change of the sequel, or the add-on, is an optional software package that is for trace detection along with the Raman identification capability of the product. And for this, we partnered with a company called Detectichem, who produces colorimetric pouches. These pouches are self-contained pouches, and so if you look at them as keeping the operator safe from harm as well. In other colorimetric technologies, you have had to mix sample with the chemicals, expose yourself to the sample and the chemicals used in the colorimetric change with those products. But this is a self-contained cassette and follows along with the same philosophy of keeping the operator safe from harm. Our unit is compatible with 16 different Detectichem pouches. We add to that all the time. And basically what we are doing is using the camera on board our units as the optical reader in order to read the color change and produce a report on the unit itself that will then allow you to expand the range of analysis from bulk identification by Raman down to trace detection by colorimetric technology. Our Flex unit is a narcotics-only unit as it's sold. However, This is our basic model. You can add to it, and that's the beauty of this unit. It means flexible or customizable, because as your needs grow, as your applications change, you don't have to go out and buy another product or another unit and learn training all over. This is something that you can simply add to it, different libraries, explosives, for instance, CWAs, and so on, for a low cost. And you can add any of the features or customer support options as well. It's budget friendly. It's a lower cost alternative to our full version. And there is no consumable cost, obviously, with Raman in itself. I wanted to introduce this short video on their sequel product, our newest product, and this is by Chris Langford, who will be the star of the show. So.
Hi, I'm Chris Langford, the product manager at Rigaku. I'm excited to introduce you to our Rescue Sequel product. The Rescue Sequel is our newest handheld Raman analyzer, used for the detection and identification of unknown substances in a tactical form factor. Designed specifically for the demanding needs of safety and security applications, the Rescue Sequel is the tool of choice among law enforcement, customs agencies, first responders, and the military. The Rescue Sequel is built on our time-tested and field-proven 1064nm wavelength Raman engine. Utilizing Raman means that we can provide analysis that is non-destructive, analyze a wide range of material types, such as solids, liquids, powders, pastes, and gels, and we can scan through translucent packaging, keeping you safe from exposure. The added benefit of the 1064nm laser is that it minimizes fluorescence issues, which has been problematic for other Raman instruments that utilize shorter wavelengths. You now have the ability to identify color, dirty, or impure substances even through colored packaging. Utilizing the 1064 Raman Advantage, combined with a large onboard chemical library of over 13,000 compounds that include narcotics, cutting agents, explosives, precursors, chemical warfare agents, toxic industrial chemicals, household chemicals, and more, coupled with the added benefit of allowing you to easily add new chemicals, the Rescue Sequel broadens the range of materials that you can analyze in the field. The Rescue Sequel can be operated either by keypad or touchscreen. If you're wearing light PPE and operating the instrument by touchscreen, blue latex or black nitrile gloves tend to work best and are recommended. If you're wearing heavy PPE, generally, you will probably want to be using the tactile keypad for interfacing with the instrument. The instrument interface is extremely easy to learn and use. Most users become proficient with the Sequel very quickly. The power button is located here, and then with the nose cone setting set to 3 and the sample flush against the nose cone, covering the aperture, let's start the scan sequence. Select Scan. Select Arm Laser, and select Scan. The instrument will begin scanning the sample. Observe the red laser warning light that will turn on when the laser is energized. Once the spectral data on the sample has been collected, the instrument will search its library for a match, and when a match is found, an identification is made. The typical analysis time is usually less than 1 minute. In this example, we have a perfect match for hexamine, which is considered a threat in our library due to the fact that it is a fuel tablet. The result screen will signify a threat with a red display, a non-threat with a green display, and a controlled substance with a yellow display. From this screen, I can interrogate the answer further by swiping to the left and right to see the resulting spectrum, more detailed information about the scan, and the resulting PDF report file. With the Rescue Sequel, you have the ability to take a photo of your sample with an onboard camera that then automatically attaches itself to your tamper-proof PDF report. The included 4C technology automatically monitors individual scans for recipes of potential greater threats. An optional unique feature to the Rescue Sequel is the ability to detect non-visible amounts of material with the Quick Detect mode. There is a measurement delay timer to help keep the user safe from potential volatile materials. The rescue sequel is environmentally sealed to a rating of IP68, allowing it to be dunked in decontamination solution. The rescue sequel has built-in Wi-Fi for easy transfer of data and reports, as well as a USB-C connector, which handles both data and power in a single connector. The removable, rechargeable, and hot swappable battery sits behind this sealed waterproof door at the bottom of the instrument. It offers 5 hours of continuous use. The rescue sequel is also compatible with disposable 123A batteries. There are a number of adapters and accessories available to make sampling even easier for a diverse range of applications and sampling environments. The small shield in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen indicates the instrument's calibration performance verification status. A green check is good. A red check indicates that calibration is required. We recommend a performance verification check against the included certified sample both before and after use. The rescue sequel includes a support package that includes access to our 24/7 reachback line, free software upgrades, and library updates for the life of the unit, as well as a 24-month warranty.
Okay, so thank you for watching that video, and I'm excited to say that I have two guests today with me who have used the Rigaku units in real world missions. I would like to introduce Jeff Broder, who will tell you a little bit about his experience that he had working with the EOD teams and chemical agents, and then followed by that, he will introduce Mike Brown from the DEA as well. So Libby, I'll let you key in Jeff.
Good afternoon. How's my audio and visual? Good? Great. So thank you very much for the opportunity to address you today. My name is Jeff Broder. I retired in 2014 from the Army as the Assistant Commandant to the U.S. Army Chemical, Biological, Radiological, Nuclear School. In 2018, I found myself in a company that won a Department of State INS grant, and we deployed to Iraq to conduct toxic chemical surveys. I called my buddy Chris Chappell at Federal Resources. He met me at the Dulles Airport Marriott, gave me a tutorial on the Rigaku that took about 2 hours, and then I was off to take a flight to remain overnight in Dubai and then off to Baghdad. The mission profile of what we did was we first spent the first month west of Baghdad in the Ramadi region, and then transferred north of Baghdad to Mosul. The purpose was twofold for this mission set. The first, my primary responsibility initially was to embed myself with explosive ordnance disposal teams to determine their risk to chemical agents and offer mitigating tactics, techniques, and procedures for them. The second, once we were complete with that, was to find chemical warfare agents on the battlefield and conduct toxic chemical surveys. So think of Iraqi army would displace ISIS. Iraqi army would call our team. We would arrive, conduct a toxic chemical survey of the home or the industrial facility to ensure that ISIS was not putting together homemade explosives, read that as IEDs, in the kitchen, and it was safe for the family to cook supper. The return on investment for 3 tours in Iraq, we identified and coordinated the safe disposal of 6 orphan radiological sources. Read that as cobalt 60 that is no longer in its intended device or location. We conducted over 50 toxic chemical surveys of homes and university laboratories. ISIS, frankly, decimated the Mosul University system. They walked their way into all of the chemical laboratories, into the storage facilities. They harvested what they needed for IEDs and homemade explosives, and they just made a mess of everything else. When you do a survey like that, you always assume that liquid on the floor is not water. It's something far more lethal. We were successful in interdicting in one find 92,000 gallons of explosive precursor. That was across 1,000 barrels. And the Rigaku rescue was our presumptive identification. Presumptive ID tool that we used. And then we also had the opportunity to survey 3 suspect improvised chemical munitions. Here's my assessment as a customer of the Rigaku. It provided uninterrupted chemical presumptive ID. Every test that we presented, every case that we presented to Rigaku, I received a report in less than 1 minute. It was generally on the order to 40 to 60 seconds. I had absolutely no maintenance issues over the course of 3 rotations that were about 60 days each. I had no calibration issues. The maintenance and the operation was intuitive. The touch screen is just like my smartphone. It took 40 seconds to boot up, so battery management was easy. I rarely went below 50% in a 10-hour survey day. The library was so comprehensive, I came across an unknown, but even if I did, the Rigaku allowed me to capture the spectra and to send it back to reach back for identification. The technique that I used with a Rigaku is we would swipe the sample, double bag it in Ziploc. I would present it to the camera on the Rigaku. I would take a photo with my GPS watch underneath it. That camera captured the sample, the lat long, and provided a date time stamp on the photo. Then I ran the test. It produced the spectra and the report. I went back to the forward operating base at the end of the day, and we set up a closed Wi-Fi system. I pulled the data from the rescue via Wi-Fi to my laptop, constructed our quad chart, and sent the report via secure means. That's my experience with the Rigaku in real world conditions. We never babied it. We did take care that we didn't work it entirely too hard. But at the end of the day, it never failed me. It did its job. That's my story. A happy customer. I'll be followed by Michael Brown, our drug interdiction business development lead. Thank you.
Thank you. That's so fast. Okay, bringing on Michael now. And if you have questions for Jeff specifically, he probably won't be back on to answer. So if you could also maybe send us an email, and then we can get it answered for you. Okay, thank you, Jeff. And while we wait for Michael, just a reminder, there's an Ask a Question button on the bottom of your screen. And when Nancy comes back on, after Michael's finished, we'll read them aloud and hopefully get answers for you. It's rejecting my request.
There we go.
There you are.
All set?
All set.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Brown, and I am the Business Development Manager for Rigaku concerning narcotics interdiction technology. Now, before joining Rigaku, I worked for the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, a 32-year veteran, of which most of my time was spent overseas working in the capacity of a foreign advisor and strategic and enforcement planner, assisting host countries with their counter-drug interdiction issues. Now, prior to retirement, roughly just 3 weeks ago, after joining Rigaku, I worked as the DEA country attaché assigned to Myanmar, which of course, as you know, is in Southeast Asia, from 2017 to 2019. Now, Myanmar is perhaps the world's largest producer of methamphetamine, which sources primarily Australia, New Zealand, and some of the oceanic countries. Myanmar's central problem is its narcotic production issue. Now, having been assigned to Myanmar, I met with and worked with the Myanmar Drug Enforcement Division, or DED, in trying to assess their main issues concerning narcotic production and enforcement in that country. And to do that, I conducted a vulnerability assessment study and found that the DED were making significant arrests. They were seizing thousands of kilograms in methamphetamine and heroin, but their methamphetamine problem still persisted. No matter their enforcement efforts that they conducted, there was still an issue of degrading the ability of transnational criminal organizations, or TOC groups or actors in that country, from mass producing multi-ton quantities of narcotics. So in looking at that problem and working with the DED in the field, we quickly came to realize that the center focus of their problem was the excessive amount of precursor chemicals being shipped across the Myanmar Chinese border into Eastern Shan State, which is where the majority of the drug trafficking laboratories are located. Now, in talking to their Customs and Borders officials, their main issue was that they know all these chemicals are coming in, but they're either mislabeled or not labeled at all, which prevents them under their law from taking any direct action in seizing those chemicals. So in essence, the problem, the complex problem of narcotic production in Myanmar was really came down to an issue of precursor chemical trafficking. Now, I'll refer to that as the precursor chemical supply chain. And the DEA effort was to find a way in which we could degrade that precursor chemical supply chain without adding additional costs or risk to their officers with their enforcement efforts in Eastern Shan State. So in order to do that, I did a very in-depth research analysis of a number of technical companies such as Rigaku and other companies that produced narcotic interdiction technology. And working in conjunction with my DEA regional laboratory in the United States, they advised that I should look at the Rigaku Rescue CQL 1064, because that's what they were using in their laboratories, and they were using in places like Afghanistan and Central and South America to do a very detailed analysis specifically on precursor chemicals and trying to better understand how narcotics are being produced, because if we don't understand which chemicals are being used, it's very hard to have an enforcement operation. So after looking at a number of devices, I reached out to Rigaku and explained to them my situation. So in doing that, I had to put together an operational plan, which was called Operation Viper, to submit to DEA headquarters, my main headquarters, to get funding to approve this operation. Now, Operation Viper was an enforcement strategy that was designed specifically to degrade the precursor chemical supply chain by giving DED border enforcement officers the technology that would allow them to identify hundreds of kilograms or hundreds of tons of precursor chemicals that come into Myanmar on a daily basis. And again, the problem with the border security forces where they were not able to effectively identify which chemicals were being used for legitimate purposes and which chemicals could possibly be used for the production of methamphetamine, to include a long list of precursors that the traffickers were now using to augment the difficulty in obtaining some of the more necessary or essential chemicals. So after submitting Operation Viper, I got the approval to purchase 3 CQL devices for pilot program. Now, working with Rigaku, we brought in a training team for 2 to 3 day extensive training on how the device works. And then we took DED officers in the field and conducted an extensive practical application on how to use a device in the field to eliminate the possibility of mishandling or misusing the device once they went operational. So after about a month of planning and training and then retraining, we were able to give DED the 3 CQLs for deployment in the field. Now, they deployed the devices at their 3 most heavily trafficked cross-border checkpoints with China, and 1 cross-border checkpoint in Myanmar, just outside, about 100 kilometers from the Myanmar Chinese border. Now, these were the primary routes that the traffickers were using to transport in the open these precursor chemicals to clandestine laboratory sites within Eastern Shan State. Now, DED's precursor chemical seizure rates prior to the application of the pilot program was less than 1%. Every once in a while, they would make a very small seizure of one of the basic precursor chemicals, P2P, methylamine, ammonium chloride, but they were missing the more essential precursors, such as thionyl chloride or methylamine hydrochloride, which were being used to mass produce methamphetamine. So after using the Rigakus for about 3 months, their seizure rate went from, let's say, 1% to 45%. And I'm talking, they were seizing multi-ton chemical shipments that were coming across the border, mislabeled, such as maybe hydrogen peroxide, when it was really acidic anhydride. Now, this gave the DD an opportunity to significantly degrade the capability of the TOC actors to move massive amounts of precursor chemicals across the border in the open to clandestine laboratories, where then multi-ton quantities of methamphetamine were produced. Now, within those 3 months, DED made several multi-ton precursor seizures, which were estimated at about $10 to $11 million. Now, that translates into about $1 billion worth of methamphetamine production. Now, we always get these facts confused. We see big seizures and we assume, oh, that means that's a great seizure. No, $1 billion worth of methamphetamine is not as important as $1 million worth of precursor chemicals, because without the chemicals, you can't have the methamphetamine. So with the success of the pilot program, DEA is now in the process of trying to purchase an additional 12 CQL 1064 devices to give to the DED to increase their outreach within Eastern Shan State to more effectively target critical infrastructure transportation points in which these precursors are being transported to critical laboratory sites. And again, the focus is not on arrests, it's not on drug seizures, but the focus is on identifying the essential precursors that are funneled through the precursor chemical supply chain from China into Myanmar. Now, theoretically, if DED said they had 100 units and they could outfit all of their checkpoints, that would significantly degrade, in my opinion, the methamphetamine production cycle by maybe 80 to 85%. And that's significant in terms of reducing the amount of methamphetamine that then can be distributed to the Far East, to countries such as Australia, New Zealand, and Japan, who are being inundated with increased methamphetamine distribution, which all links again back to the production of methamphetamine, which relies heavily on the accessibility of precursor chemicals. Now, as my colleague Jeff stated before, DED, they've had no problems operating the unit. It is tamper-proof. They've dropped it. It's been in enforcement conflicts, and the DED simply love this device, and they are requesting more devices, because this is really the use of this technology has revolutionized the law enforcement or strategic law enforcement implementation. It's not about making arrests or taking high risk chances in the jungles, but it's about simply using advanced technology to significantly impact and degrade the ability of TOC actors to move these chemicals. And this is their Achilles heel. This is their vulnerability. The transportation networks are open and exposed, and this is what Operation Viper was designed to do: attack the critical vulnerabilities of TOC actors and their use of the precursor chemical supply chain. So now my current role, I'm still working with DEA and the DED, Miramar police in improving that strategy and expanding upon Operation Viper to include working with Vietnam, Cambodia, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Australia to fully utilize this technology in degrading this precursor chemical supply chain. So I think that's about 10 minutes. But again, happy to answer any questions or engage in more dialogue at the conclusion of the webcast. So now I'll turn it back over to my Federal Reserve moderator, Julian, for further comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll bring Nancy back on for the Q&A. And I'll also remind you to, if you want to ask a question, push the Ask a Question button. Thank you very much, Michael. Great job. And then also, if you want to request a quote, we have a request a quote button at the bottom as well. So, hi, Nancy.
Hi. So I'm here to answer any questions that anyone has.
We had one that was specific to Jeff's experience, asking if he had disposal to other ramen platforms apart from Rigaku. Example for detection.
Unfortunately, I don't know the answer to that question. I think that I can certainly ask Jeff for that experience as well. Okay. But I don't see any other questions pop up.
Not either. I think people are just typing long ones, maybe. If they are asking questions or have some questions after this ends, you're welcome to email us.
Please feel free to get a hold of me. My email address is nancy.otto, O-T-T-O, @rigaku.com, or call me. Welcome any and all questions.
Oh, Jeff answered in the chat and said, yes, it was part of the Dursco kit.
Okay. All right. Perfect.
Do you want to expand upon that, Nancy, and just talk about the Dursco kit and the Rigaku part of that?
Yes. As I pointed out in the presentation, the rescue unit has been part of the Dursco kit since early 2019. And that is something that we are very proud of. The sequel unit is in the evaluation now, and we expect results by the end of July as to the approval of that product as well. So to date, we've sold 450 units into the program of these units, and they are going to continue along those lines in the coming years.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other questions coming in, but oh, got one. Okay. Any laser safety considerations for operators, such as need for laser eyewear?
Okay, so laser eye safety, it's called the NOHD distance, nominal ocular hazard distance. That is always something that you need to be aware of when you're using a laser product. This unit is a class 3B laser, and that is for our unit, the safety glasses, the eye safety glasses would be greater than an optical density of 3 is recommended. The NOHD distance for our unit is 6 feet. as well, but as long as it's used properly and it's covered in training how to use the unit properly, it is safe to use. And we don't provide the safety glasses, obviously, in the kit itself, but you are able to use those if that makes you feel more comfortable to use. But in operation, as long as the unit is used properly, meaning that it's meant to analyze samples and the sample is in place in front of the unit, it is blocking the laser from coming out of the end of the unit as it's focused on the sample. Libby, you're muted.
Sorry, thanks. We have a question in the chat. Can you explain how fluorescent is minimalized?
I'm sorry?
Can you explain how fluorescence is minimized in the 1064 laser? The Raman device has a problem with the label spot factor, often due to fluorescence noise.
Okay, I didn't hear most of that. Libby, can you, something about the fluorescence issue?
It's in the chat, if you could see the chat.
Okay, hold on. All right, can you explain how fluorescence is minimized with? Okay, so the Raman, I assume that the Raman device that they're using is 785 or another laser technology. Yes. So laser technology is at the heart of a Raman device, and it's dependent on the laser technology that you're using to determine how the use or how the unit is being used with the samples. 785, when you're using 785 nanometer laser technology, it is affected by fluorescence, which basically, let me equate that to shining a black light on a certain color and having it glow. That's probably a very layman's term of or way of looking at fluorescence. What it does do is it creates an interference to the spectrum by increasing the noise of the baseline to raise the baseline up over the pertinent peaks that is used for the identification of a sample. So therefore, if the unit can't see those peaks, those descriptive fingerprint type peaks that are created in the spectra, and then it is unable to analyze or to compare it to a library match to get an identification. Often what happens and what the delay is in the response using 785 is when the software algorithms take over to minimize that noise or to grind down that noise in order to be able to see the spectral peaks again. And that is dependent on how severe the fluorescence is that's occurring. And that relates to the time of analysis. You can wait minutes to hours for that analysis time, depending on how severe the fluorescence is. 1064 is out of the range of where the fluorescence interference occurs. And so all of our results are direct to the, directly shows the spectrum of the sample as we don't have that interference. And that's why all of our results are less than 45 seconds, no matter what the color of the material is or the color of the sample container.
Thank you, Nancy. Okay. I don't see any others. So just again, if you want to reach out, you can click on the request to quote that comes direct to us. I think we're gonna close this down if there's nothing else, but feel free to reach out to your sales rep specifically if you have any other questions too. We have marketing at federalresources.com or sales at federalresources.com. All will get to us and hopefully have a response that way. Anything else to add, Nancy?
Oh, I just want to thank everybody for attending the webinar today, and I look forward to working with all of you or answering your questions. Please contact me, as I said, to discuss the products that we have or the applications. And I encourage everyone to go to our new website, which is rigakuanalytical.com, to see our applications note and some of our videos. Thank you.
Thank you.